Welcome to Sense of Style. I'm Stuart. 8 fragrances that make a statement. You can make a statement easily without opening your mouth. Just imagine seeing someone with a neck tattoo. I think that's a statement. A bride showing up to a church, instead of the wedding dress is white, it's black. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can make statements. You can do it with your fragrances. One of the most important things, though, if you're making a statement, is you have to be heard. In other words, these are all very strong fragrances. It's not going to help making a statement if nobody can smell you. These are 8 of the strongest fragrances in my collection. They will make a statement. The statement is going to vary. I'll go into what statement each of them are making, but yeah, you'll get the idea. Fragrance number 1, this is Dior Homme Parfum. And the only statement you're going to be making by wearing this is of high quality. You're going to be the most sophisticated, elegant smelling person in the room by far. I think this is like my favorite fragrance of all time. It is more for cool weather, but you can wear it in a lot of situations. There is so much going on here, though. You're going to get the iris, obviously. You're going to get the leather. It is fundamentally a leather fragrance. You're going to pick up musk mallow, also called ambrette, which is kind of a mildly sweet seed. You're going to be able to pick up a little bit of orange even. And this has oud as well. So it has got so much going on. It is top 5 in my collection in terms of performance. The statement is going to be, I smell really good and I'm not cheap. Fragrance number 2 makes a very different statement entirely. This is Jean Lowe Nouveau by Maison Alhambra, and this is a clone of Louis Vuitton's Nouveau Monde. You're going to be opening here with something that smells very similar to Ombre Nomade, which is a sweet, dark oud fragrance that's very strong and powerful. And this clone even is very strong and powerful. And then at the end, this kind of turns into Tuscan leather, which is another dark leathery fragrance. The best part of this fragrance, though, is in the middle when it's kind of in that transition between an oud fragrance and a leather fragrance. It gets very, very interesting. It is, as I said, extremely powerful. This is the only fragrance, though, that I've ever had somebody that I've known said, "What the hell are you wearing?" This is somebody that, smelled a lot of my fragrances, knows I'm a fragrance guy. They didn't like this, and I can understand it. There's an antisocial thing to this. This is one where you're going to be noticed, but bear in mind that maybe, 30-40% of people are just not going to enjoy it. Fragrance number 3 is Mancera's Red Tobacco. And obviously, this is a well-known fragrance in the community for being an absolute beast. And so, yeah, you're going to be making a statement of, yeah, notice me, but much more social statement than wearing something like this. Because let's face it, whatever you think of Red Tobacco in terms of the performance, it is a really pleasant smelling fragrance. It's got a lot of vanilla and cinnamon, very, very nice notes. It's got some oud, it's got some tobacco, but it's just pleasant. I'm not a huge fan of something this strong necessarily, but even when I was taking this out, prepping for the video, and I'm taking this out, I could smell it right away. That doesn't happen too often with fragrances, but the smell is lovely. If you sort of break this one down too harshly, you'll notice it smells a little synthetic, yada, yada, yada. But at the same time, it's pleasant. So somebody that would wear this to make a statement would be, hey, I'm a nice guy. I smell really good. I'm very, very social, and that's okay. Next up, we've got Xerjoff Regio. Regio, by the way, means royal in Italian, right? So that really is a hint at the kind of statement you're going to be making here, and that is one of tradition. This is a very traditional smelling fragrance. This is also an absolute beast. The nickname, the Black Beast, is well earned because you're going to get 12 hours worth of performance here. But yeah, very traditional smelling fragrance. It's often compared to Black Orchid. I don't think that's the perfect comparison. Yes, Black Orchid has a lot of sweetness, but I think a lot of people overlook the fact that this is probably closer to Old Spice than anything, because there is a ton of carnation in this, and this is an extremely powdery fragrance. And actually, There's a ton of carnation in Old Spice, and Old Spice has a very prominent powdery accord. So that's what I think they were doing here. This is a modernized, sweeter version of Old Spice. So there's a plum note here that's a little fruity. So it's a fruitiness. It's not exactly like Old Spice. Old Spice kind of pumps up the spiciness. This one sort of pumps up the sweetness, maybe a little bit of fruitiness, a little bit. So it is modernized. It is very strong, but ultimately, what you're going to be getting from this is one of tradition. Fragrance number 5, this is Jean Deprez, a Bal à Versailles. And this one, okay, first of all, this is marketed to women, all right? And it's marketed to women, came out in 1962, right? So immediately you think, okay, why is he talking about an old lady fragrance? And that's a fair comment. I would never have bought this thing, but when I started collecting, I saw there was an old channel that had a couple thousand subscribers, a really masculine dude, loved his Manceras. And one day he started talking about this, talking about how it's a masterpiece, how Michael Jackson wore it, how it's more masculine than you think. It's very inexpensive, so I decided to buy it and try it. Now, it's not something that I would wear on the regular, but this one would make a statement that, hey, you are a fraghead and you're a little bit outside the box and you don't care what people think. It is pleasant in its own way, but for me, in general, it's probably a little bit too feminine. But here's why people do wear it. This has the old school notes of civet, which is very prominent. This also has a lot of leather. And if you look at who wears this on Fragrantica, a surprising number of people consider this to be unisex because of the pungency of it. It is a very pungent, strong fragrance. There's a little bit of amber sweetness, but mostly it's just very strong. Now, I think if you're a woman, you're probably less likely to wear this because it's just going to make you smell old. If you're a guy that wears this, you're going to smell interesting. But be careful. I don't wear this very often at all. And when I do, I'm a little self-conscious, to be honest. But it's one to think about. Next up, we have Givenchy Gentleman 1974. This one is unadulteratedly masculine. You are going to be masculine. That's going to be your comment, your statement. It is extremely powerful, so you will be noticed. This again has civet. So we're talking 1974. The weird thing about this one is this was a masculine fragrance in a very masculine time. You know, the 70s is a lot of masculine fragrances, and yet this is the most masculine. This is like one of 2 most masculine in my collection because it's got a lot of leather. It has got an awful lot of civet, so that animalic note. But what this does have that makes it redeemable, it's got a very nice dry down. That's when you pick up a lot of the patchouli. The civet note kind of dies out a bit, and you get a really smooth patchouli dry down, and very, very pleasant. But yeah, I can't stand the first 45 minutes of this. It is kind of pungent. Next up, we've got Rasasi La Yuqawam, and this is a leather fragrance very similar to Tuscan leather. This is also a very masculine statement you're going to be making, but it's more one of sophistication as compared to something like this. This is sophisticated in a sort of old-fashioned way. This is sophisticated in more of a modern way, in a sort of a leather way. So leather suede. There's a fair amount of raspberry here, but really, ultimately, it's a darker version of ombre leather, a more masculine version, I think. And this particular fragrance, La Yuqawam, it's weird in that, you know, it is the highest quality clone in terms of quality and price that I've seen. And it's also like super expensive for a Rasasi fragrance. They have some really inexpensive ones, so it's a little bit outside the box for that. But it's phenomenal performance. Yesterday I put it on at 10 o'clock at night, and it's 2 o'clock today, and I can still smell it on my hand. This is just absolute beast mode. Yeah, this one is, yeah, it's really good. It is sophisticated, though. It is a little bit more high-end than the other ones. Finally, this might come as a surprise. This is a clone. This is Hardwood by Fragrance World. And this is a clone of a Bath & Body Works fragrance called Mahogany Woods. Now, you wouldn't think that a fragrance like this, because I promise that all of these are going to be super powerful fragrances, and this one is. I don't know. I've never tried Mahogany Woods. I don't know how strong that is, but this thing is crazy. I mean, 8 to 10 hours in terms of longevity and a lot of projection. And this, I think, is kind of like the statement you'll be making is kind of like what you would get from something like red tobacco. You know, it's a very, very pleasant, sweet fragrance that I think a lot of people would enjoy. It's the kind of thing like red tobacco. You don't want to wear it too often because it is very powerful. But it's lovely. Now, it's a vanilla woody fragrance, but it's got what differentiates it, because you think, I got a million of fragrances that are like very sweet and powdery like this. What makes this one different? It's the cognac note. It makes it masculine. It makes it a little more interesting. It has a little bite that you don't pick up in other sweet fragrances. And it's really inexpensive. Presentation is awful. But the atomizer sucks, and this label has been peeling off since day one. But damn, the juice is really good. Anyway, yeah, you can make a statement in so many different ways. Wearing a fragrance to make a statement is a good one, though, because unlike a neck tattoo, you only have to wait a couple hours and it's gone. Thanks for watching.